Chimaev is training so hard and putting it on guys. Watching him against Fluffy, do we believe that he can compete against Khamzat Chimaev? I have heard stories, guys, out of the Chimaev camp, that Chimaev is training so hard and putting it on guys, elite level guys, like nothing you've ever seen before. I have heard Khamzat Chimaev wants people to go so hard with him to try to beat him and submit him and do. He's paying him. Khamzat's putting a bounty on himself.
You want to jump in my pool?
I want to die, coach.
Okay. No problem.
Alright, fight fans, prepare yourselves because we're about to break down what might be the most explosive gym drama that's absolutely rocked the MMA community lately. We're diving headfirst into this legendary confrontation that allegedly happened between Sean Strickland and Khamzat Chimaev. This goes way beyond typical gym chatter that floats around social media. We're looking at two absolute savages in their respective weight classes, two fighters who are genuine predators, and there's this massive controversy that somehow leaked to the public. What we need to understand is how this entire mess impacts both their careers, and more importantly, what happens when these two eventually clash for real under those bright UFC lights with everything at stake.
On Strickland versus Khamzat Chimaev, what happened in the training room? Now, Daniel Cormier talked about this, and I'm glad that he said it because it's what everybody's wondering. There was people that were there when they trained. Khamzat has one opinion. He whipped Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland has a totally different opinion. He said, wait a minute, first off, we didn't go that often, and when we did go, hey, no problems with you. Where are the bystanders? I'm so curious. Now, there's a rule in the practice room that what happens in the room stays in the room, and you would be stunned at how fiercely loyal to that code the entire industry is. But
here's what makes this situation so captivating. Chinaman stepped forward claiming he completely dominated Strickland during their training, essentially saying he handled Sean with ease, but then Strickland fired back with his trademark bluntness, completely rejecting that version of events. When that happened, the sacred gym code, that unwritten law about keeping training business private, got completely obliterated. This transcends simple trash talk between fighters trying to establish dominance. We're witnessing pure mental warfare, the type of psychological battle that shifts how every contender in the division sees these guys, and how every fan at home judges their skill level and heart.
right, whether that happened or that didn't happen, those guys have already stepped outside it. So where's the third man? Where's the fourth man? Where's the fifth man? I've been to Extreme Couture plenty of times. It's a packed gym. People would have seen Sean Strickland and Chimaev, and nobody is weighing in. It's a very fascinating concept. And Chimaev now, allegedly, and everything with Chimaev is like this big secret, and it didn't used to be. And Chimaev is one of the great media.
What really happened inside those gym walls is absolutely critical here, and we need to examine precisely why this matters so much for where their careers go from here. This situation becomes genuinely mind-boggling, and honestly reaches levels of confusion that make zero sense. Consider this angle for a moment. If two elite fighters like Strickland and Chimaev, athletes who are legitimately ranked in the UFC and real threats in their divisions, if they actually went at it in a busy training facility like Extreme Couture, which is a famous gym with dozens of people working out there constantly, then how is it possible that no reliable witnesses have stepped up to share what they saw?
Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, Chimaev, where the media was just drawn to him and used to get so much information. We got everything. We got personal information. We got who he's dating, who he's marrying, who he's hanging out with. We got when he was on a potential deathbed during COVID, like Chimaev let us in. We got to go with him in a car when him and Darren Till went grocery shopping. And by the way, it was interesting. I mean, like, this dude was, he couldn't miss.
The wall of silence in MMA training facilities is absolutely legendary. It's been embedded in the sport's DNA from day one, but here's the thing that makes this really interesting. Both Chimaev and Strickland have already shattered that code by going public with their versions of what went down. So if they've already crossed that line, where are all the other sets of eyes that were present in that gym? Where are the sparring partners, the trainers, the athletes working pads, the fighters stretching nearby? This deafening silence speaks volumes about what's really happening, and it makes you question whether the reality is way more complex than either fighter is revealing, or if breaking that code carries consequences that are more serious than anyone realizes. It creates yet another dimension to this already fascinating back and forth about their sparring session, and frankly, it makes the whole drama even more puzzling and compelling.
And all of a sudden, mum's the word. He's not traveling, he's changing weight classes. He's not traveling because he can't travel, he can't get to the US. The stories of him can't get into the US is while he was holding training camp in the US. As a matter of fact, it was the very time that he was in Las Vegas training with Sean Strickland, but everything just got quiet. Now what's Chimaev gonna do? Gonna fight Imanov, he's getting called out by Strickland. Duplessis wants a rematch. Chimaev's going to leave the division. He's going up to 205 pounds. Like, it's just been really hard to get any level of clarity. So now Chimaev is back to training. Khalil Roundtree goes out and trains with him. It was pretty incredible.
But imagine this scene. You're tracking Khamzat Chimaev during his rise to stardom, and this guy is literally documenting himself buying groceries, just casually strolling through stores, selecting items. You couldn't ignore it. It's crazy to look back at Khamzat's early UFC run considering where he is now. The dude was completely transparent, an instant fan favorite, sharing absolutely everything from behind-the-scenes training content to these hilarious grocery store adventures with Darren Till, where they're just messing around like ordinary people.
Push yourself videos that were coming out, and a lot of the rumors were true about Chimaev's size. You could tell he was a big guy. I don't know that I would dispute the rumor, but it is still a rumor that he wanted to go up to 205 pounds. And not go up to 205 pounds because of Pierre or to become champ, because he didn't want to go back to 85. Like, he looked big and he looked good. So now you got Strickland, who's been given the opportunity, earned the opportunity. And that's a very confusing division as well. We haven't heard from Imanov what that negotiation looked like.
This openness, this eagerness to welcome fans into his world is what created his mystique initially, making him seem both accessible as a human being, yet completely unstoppable as a competitor simultaneously. He built relationships with fans that most fighters never achieve, establishing this special connection with the audience. This footage from his early career shows the dramatic difference compared to his current mysterious persona, the enigmatic character he's transformed into today. This evolution in how he presents himself is striking and intentional, and it makes the secrecy around his Strickland training even more obvious and intriguing.
Like the scorn lover is the first one to come out and start telling us what happened and how they were wrong. Imanov did not do that. Dricus weighed in on the situation, and Dricus had the same experience with Sean Strickland that I had with Sean Strickland. And Dricus was talking about, man, the first time you go with this guy, you think he's a wrestler. When you don't know anything about him, and you haven't met yet, you just feel him. At the end of the workout, you think he's a wrestler.
Here's what really gets me thinking. Why this complete transformation from someone who documented everything? Was his encounter with Sean so significant, whether good or bad, that it played a role in Chimaev's shift toward this more secretive approach to his public presence? Did something go down in that training room that completely altered how he wants to be seen by fans and future opponents?
About he's even harder to keep there. And it's a very interesting concept. I mean, Dricus went as far as to say that he thinks that Sean's got a very good chance in the fight, and he said in a stand-up realm that Sean is much better than Chimaev. Now, I would challenge Dricus on that, but I would challenge him very respectfully, like as the former champion who's been in the ring the better part of 75 minutes with these guys. He has the right to his opinion, but it did surprise me. Like, what do you mean meaning Strickland? What do you mean he's meaningfully better in the striking than Chimaev? Where did you...
The situation gets even stranger when you examine Khamzat's confusing travel problems and his recent weight class transitions. It's generated this fog of uncertainty around his entire career trajectory that seems impossible to decode. The contradiction here is really striking and worth paying attention to. Reports were spreading everywhere claiming he was banned from entering America, that there were documentation problems or travel barriers or whatever the official story was supposed to be.
I haven't gone back and watched that fight, but I was at that fight. I don't remember that. I mean, it was pretty quick, and they came across the corner, and it was the same takedown every time, and it was a double leg, and I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. I'm just asking, does he have the knowledge? Is that accurate? I mean, that's the day-old story all the way back to 1993. Well, if this guy can keep it standing, and if this guy can get it to the ground, It's the day-old lazy approach to an analysis to MMA. The problem is, somewhere around 2007, that no longer became true. Guys were just complete fighters. And I'm only asking the question. I mean, these guys have fought. There's something known as a mask.
Yet somehow, during that exact time frame, he was actively sparring with Sean Strickland in Las Vegas, which happens to be located right in the middle of the United States. This mismatch, this gap between the timeline and reality, creates doubt and skepticism among fans and journalists, making it nearly impossible to understand Chimaev's plans or even his current condition at any point. The confusion surrounding his whereabouts and goals only deepens the mystery of his Strickland sessions, forcing everyone to guess what else is being intentionally hidden about his training and his actual readiness to fight. It's like trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle where the pieces keep changing shape.
It's true in all of sports, but you really feel it in combat. And the mask is the aura. Mike Tyson wore the mask. Anderson Silva wore the mask. Where guys would buckle in the back. There was just this aura around this guy. He was invincible. If he touches me, he's gonna knock me out. This guy's so good, he could put me on his finger and spin me around. But it's a real thing. It's a real thing until you get in there and you feel him. And a lot of times when it's done, you go, boy, I wish I could do that again. I could have done better. Whether I would have won or not, I could have competed better. That guy was not this mythical.
The sheer mass and rumored light heavyweight ambitions of Khamzat, backed up by his recent brutal training clips that have been making rounds online, are genuinely scary when you witness them. The reality that he was supposedly considering a jump to 205 pounds, and here's the important detail, not for some double champion pursuit where he'd try to hold belts in multiple divisions, but actually to stop cutting back down to middleweight, reveals everything about his natural size and the damage those weight cuts inflict on him.
And the mask comes off when you train with the guy. Once you train with him and once you work out with him, once you see him dragging in the gym like everybody else and trying to wrap his hand and just like trying to get the motivation to get through a workout. Once you feel him and you sweat with him and you watch other guys go, the mask is off. And Chimaev is very much one of these guys that has a mask. There was an aura around Chimaev. Now what's going to happen is between these guys, and I fully do believe that Chimaev feels that he got the best of Sean and that Sean's going, hey, wait a minute, there's a little bit more to the story, which is very real in the practice room.
This physical advantage becomes a major consideration when analyzing his sparring with Strickland, because size absolutely matters in fighting whether anyone wants to acknowledge it or not. If Chimaev appeared massive and dangerous even before potentially fully moving to light heavyweight, imagine the pure strength and violence he brought to those training rounds with Sean. It makes Strickland's rejection of Chimaev's story even more remarkable when you consider the physical monster he was dealing with, because Sean is facing what's basically a light heavyweight while competing at middleweight. That size advantage is legitimate and substantial.
The head. One guy sat out the round before and the other guy had his hardest round the round before, and now it's right. There's all sorts of things and there's all sorts of math that's going on in a fighter's mind. Like a fighter could openly lose rounds to another guy and go, no, but I got the best of you. And then have his reasons why. And a training round is very deceptive. You're grappling at 100%, but you're striking at 80%. And that's a broad stroke term, but that's pretty consistent throughout gyms everywhere. And I'm just wondering, who was the third man? I've broken the deal about what stays in the room. That was Sean's gym, that was Sean's room. Chimaev was a guest. These are the facts. Who saw those sparring sessions? I want to hear what they remember. Who was the common opponent? It wasn't like Sean and Chimaev just went with each other. Each round they went with somebody else. Who was there? I'm curious. I want to know what really happened.
The perspectives we're getting from Dricus du Plessis are absolutely priceless and genuinely insightful analysis, particularly since he's an active fighter who has actually battled both Strickland and Chimaev inside the cage under real combat situations. His breakdown of Strickland, describing the grappler's build, the constant forward movement that Sean applies, creates a vivid image of Sean as a surprisingly powerful and determined fighter who's more dangerous than he appears at first glance. Dricus drawing connections between his personal experience facing both athletes and the discussion about Strickland gives real weight to this evaluation, since he's not just some random observer throwing out opinions. It shows Sean as an actual person rather than just a fighter, making his keep training private position and his response to Chimaev's version seem more genuine and based in truth. It anchors all the theories in actual experience instead of pure speculation or online rumors, providing us with an active competitor's viewpoint on what it's really like to face these fighters. Dricus claiming that Strickland is significantly superior in the striking game compared to Chimaev is an explosive statement, to put it mildly, and one that definitely demands attention, since that's a pretty major claim to throw out there. While Dricus has definitely earned his right to that opinion as someone who's actually fought both athletes, Chimaev's striking skills, even though they're often overlooked because of his incredible wrestling and ground game, have displayed real glimpses of knockout power and technical growth throughout his run. This particular claim from Dricus directly affects how we view that controversial training session between Khamzat and Sean. If Strickland actually outstruck Chimaev during their gym work, if he was consistently connecting with better shots and controlling the stand-up exchanges, it would completely change the dynamic of their beef and give serious support to Sean's side of the story. It's a huge statement that deserves deeper analysis and investigation, especially considering Chimaev's complete skill set and his status as a well-rounded mixed martial artist who can end fights anywhere. The pushback against Dricus' striking evaluation is essential, and it cuts right to the core to raise a basic question that has to be answered. When exactly did we witness Khamzat's striking truly challenged against Dricus during their actual fight? If you rewatch that contest, the bout was mainly a grappling battle, with the majority of action happening in wrestling exchanges and clinch work. This points out a typical mistake in MMA breakdown that occurs constantly, where analysts form opinions about one element of a fighter's abilities from a fight that was controlled by something completely different. If Dricus' view of Strickland's striking advantage over Chimaev comes purely from their wrestling exchanges, from how each felt during grappling and clinch battles, then it's possibly a mistaken assessment that misses the bigger picture. It makes us reconsider how reliable these gym war tales and secondhand reports really are. How much of these stories comes from gut feeling and impression, and how much represents actual facts, particularly when certain skills aren't completely displayed or challenged under real fight pressure? There's this thing in combat sports called the mask, and Dricus mentioned how difficult Khamzat was to control on the ground. The mask concept is incredibly deep in fighting, and it perfectly captures the mental edge that comes from having this aura of being unbeatable surrounding you. Legends like Mike Tyson during his peak years and Anderson Silva throughout his incredible championship run perfected this psychological aspect, breaking down opponents mentally before any actual violence occurred in the fight. It's all about the mystique, that sense of invincibility that follows certain athletes, the presence that makes rivals question themselves before the opening bell sounds. This idea connects directly to Khamzat Chimaev, whose early UFC career was constructed on this almost supernatural level of control, where he was annihilating opponents and making it appear effortless. Opponents would mentally crumble under this reputation, under the stress of facing bores sometimes before the actual competition began. Building the mask, recognizing its influence, becomes essential for analyzing the Chimaev-Strickland gym controversy and what really occurred between them. Did Strickland, a competitor who's famous throughout MMA for his mental toughness and his total absence of intimidation, see past Chimaev's mask and discover he's just human like everyone else? Or was Sean actually dominated by Borz's presence and legend during those sparring rounds? This represents the absolute core of the gym war story, the center of what we're attempting to figure out. The mask disappears when you train alongside someone, when you're in there session after session, grinding through brutal rounds. It's during those exhausting, exposed moments of preparation when you're drained, your body is failing, witnessing an opponent fatigued, seeing them vulnerable, watching them battle like everybody else, that the mystique completely vanishes, and you understand they're just another fighter. Chimaev, who's an expert at the mask and building that threatening image, probably had his persona challenged by Sean Strickland in ways he hadn't faced previously. This explains the contradictory stories we're getting from both camps. Chimaev might honestly think he controlled those sparring sessions based on his reputation, his aura, and maybe some initial moments where he gained advantages, while Strickland, having witnessed the person behind the Boers legend, believes he did better than the rumors indicate, and that he competed well or even came out ahead. It's an incredible battle between perception and truth, and those training room situations removed all pretense for both fighters, making them confront each other as they really are. The reality hits hard even when competitors aren't going full intensity. This perfectly shows the misleading nature of sparring rounds, explaining exactly why gym tales are so personal and why you can't always trust them completely. A fighter might lose certain rounds or elements of training, but still believe internally that they got the advantage over you because of particular moments or a felt edge in specific areas. like maybe they were grappling at maximum effort while only striking at partial speed. This subtlety is absolutely crucial for making sense of the Chimaev-Strickland situation, and why their accounts don't align. Did Chimaev think he dominated those sessions because he controlled the wrestling portions and managed to take Sean down and keep him there? While Strickland believed he competed well or even dominated the striking aspects of sparring, leading to two completely different views of the identical training session. It's a valuable reminder that dominating a training round isn't always clear-cut. It's not like an official fight with judges keeping score, especially when the only things at risk are pride and bragging rights between two competitive alpha personalities. These athletes are constantly battling for superiority. The critical question that everybody wants resolved continues to be who else was present in that gym during these sessions, and why are they remaining quiet? Sean Strickland's training facility, his home base with Chima visiting as a guest athlete. These details are important context that matters for this narrative. This wasn't some private session behind locked doors with nobody around. Other sparring partners were definitely present. Coaches were there, athletes were training nearby. Their viewpoints and their witness testimony represent the missing elements of this mystery that could resolve everything. The call for these outside parties, these unbiased observers who have nothing to gain from either side, to speak up makes complete sense, since their accounts could finally bring the transparency and facts about what really happened between Khamzat and Sean during those debated training sessions. Until that occurs, until someone ends the silence, the story of their sparring will remain wrapped in secrecy and opposing narratives, creating even more anticipation for a potential future battle when these two finally face off in the Octagon for real.